Hey y'all, hey, happy Monday. Welcome back to our third week of leadership topics. This week we are going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, conflict management. So stick around and I'm going to talk about 7 ways you can work to manage conflict. So as leaders in life, in work, and in family, we have to always deal with conflict. And so let's talk about 7 ways that we can really make sure that we are managing conflict well and that we can get the best results possible in situations where we really don't want to be in. So number 1, the first step is to make the first step. When there is conflict, whether it is between you and someone else or you're mediating conflict between 2 people who can't seem to work it out themselves, the first thing that you need to do as a leader is realize that you need to take the first step. The only way to resolve a problem is to face that problem head on. And so as leaders, we need to make sure that we overcome the fear that comes with stepping into conflict situations and that we just do it. The fear of dealing with conflict head on causes us to do one of 3 things. It either causes us to be defensive, it causes us to be distant, or it causes us to be demanding. So let's think about that at work. When we're at work and we have someone on our team where we have some type of conflict with them, we don't like their attitude, they're not getting along with coworkers, they're not following the rules. If we avoid that conflict, 9 times out of 10, it is out of fear of what's going to happen, and then what happens to us as leaders is we do one of those 3 things to people. So we either become really demanding with those people, so we're giving them more work to do, we're giving them tougher shifts to work, we're giving them harder tasks to work on, we're giving them less support and less help to work on the tasks that they need to work on, so we become really demanding, or we become distant and we avoid that person. We avoid that person, we don't talk to that person, we exclude that person, we email them instead of going to talk to them or call them when we should. We become distant, or we become defensive, where whenever that person brings something to us that they see that needs to change or that can be done better, we become defensive and we really get wrapped up in ourselves. And so we really need to take the time to take the first step to deal with conflict, because it will cause us to be defensive, distant, and demanding to the people we lead at home, at work, and in life in general. The second step to managing conflict is to ask for wisdom. Talk to your mentors. Sit down and think about the situation yourself. Compare it to things that you've come across in the past. Talk about it with your peers or your supervisor or your advisors in general, and see what they have to say about the situation. What advice would they give you? How would they approach it? And then use that wisdom from the people that you talk to formulate your game plan for actually approaching the person and dealing with the conflict. So that is step number 2. Ask for wisdom. Step number 3 is to begin with what's your fault. So in every conflict situation, especially as leaders, there is something that we own in that conflict. So it may be that we didn't provide enough supervision. It may be that we didn't give clear enough direction. It may be that we didn't remove barriers for somebody to get something done. With customers, it may be that we didn't have what they needed in stock. At home with our family, it may be that we didn't buy enough dessert to go around to all the kids. Start with what's your fault. When you begin with what's your fault, you break down self-centeredness and pride, and you put yourself in the position of somebody who has made a mistake. And this step is really important when we are managing conflict, because we want to make sure that we humanize the other person, because that is going to help us to relate to that person differently. So if we start out with them by telling them what our fault is in the matter, and it could be as simple as you didn't listen that well when that person was talking to you. When we begin with what's our fault, we humanize that person, We break down their walls and their barriers. We help them to let their guard down, and then we are able to approach the thing that we would like to see change in them easier. They will be more receptive to it, and we don't feel like we are attacking them because we've already owned up to our part in the situation. Step number 4 is to listen for their hurt and their perspective. So after you have brought up the situation, you've done that with wisdom, because before you went to the person, you've talked to your peers, your advisors, the people you trust, and you've approached the situation with wisdom. You've owned up to your part of the situation, and now you want to stop and actually listen to the person. Up until now, you've just said, we have a problem. We had a problem. This problem started yesterday, and I just want to sit down and talk to you about this problem so that we can reconcile it. And I first want to start off by apologizing to you because, and then you own up to what's your fault in the situation. And then the next thing you do is say, tell me about how you felt about the situation. How did you see it? What was going on for you what that led up to that point? And then you just listen, and you're really listening to hear what their fears were, because most of the time when we end up in conflict with people, it is because we have some type of fear. Fear that they're attacking us, fear that we're not doing something good enough, or we have some type of doubt. We're not sure we're giving people the right information. We're not sure that we're doing that task exactly the right way. And so really listen to the person that you are managing conflict with and see what their doubts and fears are, because that's going to better enable you to resolve the issue. Once you know what their doubts and fears are, now you can attack the root cause of the problem and not attack the personality of the person. So listen to them sincerely, with an open mind, with suspended beliefs, and hear what's really going on in that person's head and in that person's heart. All right, so number 5 is to speak the truth tactfully. Yes, we have a conflict. Yes, there's a problem that we need to resolve. You've already owned up to your part in the problem, and now it is time for you to actually tell the person what it is that they did that entered the two of you into this conflict, or entered them and the other party into this conflict. But you want to make sure that you speak the truth tactfully. Don't say it offensively. Don't use any words that are going to demean the person or undermine their intelligence or undermine their culture. Be careful that you speak the truth tactfully. Stick to the facts. Stick to what they did or what they did not do, and the impact of those things on you. So how you felt, what happened to you, or the impact of those things on others. Be tactful, be truthful, speak to people with respect, no matter what their position is in life. Speak to people with respect, because if you speak to someone offensively, they are going to take your message, no matter how true it is, defensively. So speak the truth tactfully. That's number 5. Number 6 is to fix the problem and not the person. So we already talked about the reason that you are admitting fault first is because it humanizes you and it humanizes that person. You took the time to listen to their doubts and fears and what was going on in their head, but now it is time. You've had the chance to tell them what they did and why it was hurtful, or why it caused the conflict, and now we're gonna work together on a solution to fix the problem. But fixing the problem does not mean that you are fixing the person. So if the conflict is someone that is late for work, you are not going to fix the problem by saying, hey, you need to come to work and you need to be here on time. That's not fixing the problem. That is fixing the person. And so you really need to go back to that time where you listened about what caused the conflict. You need to go back and access that information, because that information is going to be what helps you to solve the problem. So remember what that person told you, remember what your fault in the situation was, and then use that information to really solve the problem that you are having. So if somebody is being tardy, maybe they have told you several times in passing that they're having car troubles. And your fault in that may be that you really didn't listen to that person at the time they were telling you that they had car troubles, and now they're catching the bus to work. And so they probably needed their schedule adjusted. You didn't listen to that, where you could have been proactive as their leader and helped to remove a barrier for that person getting to work on time up front. And now that we're in this situation, if that person still has that issue, let's work on how we can work together to resolve that problem. So maybe you can't schedule them later every single day, but maybe you can schedule them later 3 of their 5 shifts of the week. And then that person can commit to you that on the 2 shifts that you can't schedule them later, they'll find an alternate way to get to work on time. So work to fix the problem, not the blame. People really don't set out to make us angry. They don't set out to do the wrong things in most cases, and we need to remember that they are humans just like us, and we need to give them the benefit of the doubt. So work to fix the problem collectively together, and don't work to fix that person. And then step 7 is the step that we so often miss. We may do a good job of taking a breather, taking advice from other people, saying what our part in the situation was, listening to the other person and their perspective, being tactful about how we phrase what we're trying to put in front of the person, and fixing the problem and not the person. But the last step is critical, because as leaders, we manage conflict because we want to keep people on our teams. We want to keep people as a part of the group. And in order to do that, we have to reconcile the relationship. And so after you have confronted the situation, you've listened to the person, you've told them what the issue was, you've worked to fix the problem, now you need to work to repair the relationship. And that is going to take some additional time. So it may only take you a couple of minutes to actually fix the thing that caused the conflict, but make sure you set aside time to really reconcile that person to you and reconcile that person to your team or your family or your group. Have you sat down and really talked about what that person needs from you in the future? What do you need from that person? Do you still believe in that person? Is there something that needs to be done to reconcile that relationship? Also, often we work and we confront conflict head on because we're not afraid of conflict, but we forget that the whole reason for managing conflict is because we work with people and we want to reconcile those relationships. And so focus on reconciling those relationships after you have adjusted the problem. Do we need to set new boundaries? Do we need to set new objectives? Do we need to set new expectations? Do we need to talk about anything else that is going to get in the way of us reconciling the relationship that we had prior? Spend some time on reconciling the relationship. So that's it. That's my 7 steps for managing conflict. I will see you all next week. Bye.
Wanna stay and fight for you.